Deep in the woods, a lone house. Not your typical abode, but for the family that lives here, it's home. Little do the inhabitants know, however, that their house was built on the ruined foundations of a castle where a terrible crime was committed. History may have forgotten, but the dead have not. And now, centuries after these horrible events, they're ready to take their vengeance. Welcome to Mike's Gaming Gala. I'm Mike, and this week we've got a very special episode for you. We'll be looking at Batty Zabella for the Nintendo Game Boy, published by Retro Room and Ice Cold Blood. That's not all though. We'll also be looking at the sequel, Batty Zabella 2, which will be getting a physical release later this year. Batty Zabella comes in a professionally printed box, with a manual, and a new injection molded cartridge in one of these plastic cases. Both of these games are currently available on itch.io, and if you're an Evercade fan, the first game is included on the Indie Heroes Collection 4 for that system. Links to all of these, as well as the physical copy, are in the description. Full disclosure, I was given this game as well as the ROM of the second game for review purposes. That said, all opinions in this review are mine and mine alone. Alright, we've got 2 games to get through and you're gonna love them, so let's get right to it. We'll start with Batty Zabella. After the splash screen, we get a title screen, and pressing start, we can either start a new game or continue one in progress. Then, we start things right, with an attractive woman naked in bed. This is already my kind of game. Sadly, that initial excitement is dampened quickly. This is Batty Zabella, and her husband, Husbano, has been missing for 2 weeks. She's barely holding on for her son, but tonight, there's something sinister in the air. She gets out of bed, and the game starts. Batty Zabella is a point-and-click adventure, and as such, you play by controlling a cursor on screen, moving it with a D-pad, and interacting by pressing the A button. At the left of the screen is an image of our heroine, and you can talk to her by clicking on the picture. Above her is your compass, and then to the right of all of that is your view of the area that you're in. Whenever you click on something, if there's something to see, Batty describes it to you with text at the bottom of the screen. Sometimes there will be options to pick from, such as whether to pick up an item or not. That shows up down here as well. Getting dressed, we can leave the bedroom and start our adventure. Both of these games I'm reviewing here are very story-based, and they have specific tasks and actions that need to be done in order to advance. I'm going to keep the spoilers as minor as I can, so watching this review shouldn't ruin your experience. But tomorrow, when I release the gameplay footage, keep in mind that it is a full walkthrough of both games. Leaving your room, as any good mother does, you feel the need to check on your son and see if he's hungry. Batty tells you that his room is down the hall, and it's abundantly clear which door belongs to the teenager. That son is indeed hungry, so you tell him that you'll make him a nice rat sandwich. Quite the delicacy, really. While I won't tell you how to make said sandwich, we'll use this time to go over how you navigate your environment. Moving your cursor around your surroundings and clicking on doors, halls, or stairs will move you to those areas. In many rooms, at the bottom of the screen is an icon that allows you to turn around and get a different perspective of where you are. In other rooms, this will be an arrow that allows you to move backwards. While moving around, it always pays to click on everything you can. Your environment will be full of clues to aid you in your journey. Clicking on something and reading the description may not seem relevant at first, but later it'll come in handy. Even if there isn't a clue to be found, Batty will often have some snarky or humorous comment about things. Batty Zabella is comedy horror in the same vein as Elvira or Vampirella, full of witty jokes and sexual innuendo. The dialogue here is clever and full of character. Trust me, you'll want to engage with everything just for the chit-chat. If you pick up an item, it's added to your inventory. Pressing start, you can view your items, and here we see that Batty can only hold 2 things at a time, in addition to your hairpin, which will come in handy very soon. If you ever get lost, pressing select brings up a map of where you are. After a short while, you should become very familiar with your home, but later in the game, it can definitely come in handy. After taking care of Batson's meal, you'll have to head to the basement. Here's where the horror aspect finally reveals itself in the form of these scary smiling phantoms. Staying in any area while one of these is on screen is inviting attack. As you're hit, you'll see Batty flinch in pain. If she's hurt enough, her picture will change to reflect the damage she's taken, mascara running and blood trickling from her mouth. Eventually, yes, these phantoms can kill her, so be careful. Thankfully, there is a way to save your progress. Everything that you'll come across can be very tiring, and even heroines need a rest sometimes. Clicking on a bed will prompt you to save, quit, or resume. After saving, Batty will also be refreshed and restored to full health. When you come across these phantoms, you aren't completely defenseless. You can fight them with your hairpin, but in order to do damage, you'll have to enchant it first. I'll leave you to figure out how to do that, but when you find where it's done, it's pretty obvious. When it's enchanted, don't forget to keep an eye on it in your inventory. The enchantment doesn't last forever, and you'll have to top up now and then. Eventually, things go a little haywire in the house, and you wind up trapped in a cell with a whole new building to explore. After figuring out how to escape your immediate predicament, you encounter a whole world that you weren't aware of before. And it's here that you'll begin unraveling the mysteries that have thus far been presented. Mercifully, you'll find a place here to rest and save. And I'd be remiss if I didn't show you the pin-up pose for this save point. Seriously, this game is full of graphic images that fit the theme so damn well. Now, I have to be careful because I really don't want to spoil the story for you, but as you explore and solve puzzles, you'll eventually come across 3 super phantoms that serve as boss fights. I won't tell you who these phantoms are or why any of this is happening, but fighting these guys is a little different. Like regular phantoms, they'll inflict damage simply by being on screen. You'll also see flaming orbs and sparkling stars appearing and disappearing around them. In these battles, clicking on the orbs inflicts damage on the phantom, while the stars restore your health. In order to win, you'll have to find a balance of the two. Watch carefully where they appear so that you can dart to them when they do. It's a repeating pattern, so it shouldn't be too difficult to master after a try or two. Defeating the first 2 bosses will provide you with items that you'll need in order to get to the final boss later, so don't forget to pick those up. Alright, time to wrap up the first game with some tips and tricks, as well as to show you what happens if you fail your quest. Like I said before, click on everything. And don't always assume that witty remarks aren't useful. Clues are hidden everywhere, and sometimes are very literal. For instance, clicking on the couch in the living room, Batty says, "I could search 10 times and not find the remote for the TV." You have to search 11 times. Also, save often, if only for the health recharge. There's really nothing in this game that is super difficult to figure out if you're paying attention, but for most, I imagine you won't be finishing this in one play session. And even if you do, you're bound to die a few times. So the less you have to retrace after dying, the better. When you get to the end boss, she's very difficult to beat, unless you've done something ahead of time to weaken her. Remember that. I know at least one person who's gotten to the end boss and given up because they couldn't beat her. Possibly hanging out in the graveyard at the back of the house for a while may help start you on the journey to figuring out a way to make that boss easier. If, however, you die at the final boss, it's not just game over, you get the bad ending of the game, where Batty is possessed and doomed to haunt within these walls forevermore. And that's Batty Zabella for the Game Boy. So what did I think? It's an absolute masterpiece. The graphics are amazing for the Game Boy. The music sets a great atmosphere, the story is engaging, and the dialogue is straight out of those sexy comedy horror films from the 80s. I can't imagine anyone not loving this game, and it's absolutely worth at least buying the ROM to play and experience. But we're not done yet. Time to look at the sequel, Batty Zabella 2 Xmas. Does it live up to the high standards of the first one? Let's see. This time, after the splash screen, we're warned that this game contains themes and imagery that may offend some players. Honestly though, while I would say that it's more provocative than its predecessor, you have to be pretty prudish to get your panties in a bunch over what's here. Then, once again, we get a title screen that prompts us to press start. Doing so, we get the option to start a new game or load an existing one. Starting a new game, we see the familiar home of Batty Zabella, and this time it's the night before Christmas. It's nice to see her husband is free and sleeping peacefully with her in their bed. So clearly, the proper ending of the first game isn't the one where she gets possessed. It's also nice to see a tasteful nude of our heroine right off the bat. From the bottom of all our nerd hearts, thank you. Anyhow, the game starts off with Batty waking to a loud bang. No, that's not a husbano kind of bang, but rather a noise from the backyard. Throwing on a robe, it's time to investigate. But Batty Zabella 2 plays a little bit different to the first game. Here, we no longer have a cursor to control, but rather the actions that we can perform surround the central image of where we are. An arrow means move, and a question mark means interact. At any time, you can press down on your D-pad to interact with Batty, which, like the previous game, is always recommended, not only for the hints, but also for the witty banter. Like the last game, Start opens your inventory and Select opens the map. However, here, pressing down on either of those screens will let you know what your current task is. Handy if you're getting a bit lost. Leaving your bedroom, we get a screen telling us it's 8 p.m., and this will be a recurring theme, as the game advances hour by hour as you complete the story. Making our way to the backyard in order to explore the noise, it's immediately apparent that the already impressive graphics of the first game have been ramped up to 11 on this one. The visuals here are stunning, and I'm not just talking about being able to see Batty's cleavage all the time. I also like the vignette look of how you see things. It's very thematic. Making it to the mausoleum in the graveyard, we see it's been destroyed by a huge impact, and there's a man in there. Thankfully, he's not dead, 'cause it's Santa Claus! You decide to bring him in and run him a hot bath, and after ogling him for a little, she takes his suit to stitch it up while he's in the tub. This game is really difficult to show without spoiling certain things. So in this one, while I won't tell you what to do and how, I will be sharing a couple plot points that if you're going to play, you may want to experience blind. I don't think it ruins the game to know these, but that's your warning. If you don't want to know them, you can skip to the final thoughts. I'll keep those spoiler-free. Back to the game, while Santa is bathing, you decide to get dressed in your most festive outfit, and before you know it, it's 9 p.m. Husbano isn't impressed and chases Santa downstairs. Little does he know that, unlike last game, you have a neighbor down there that isn't impressed with strangers. He meets them only to discover that they think he looks like a great meal. Your neighbor is willing to trade him for a replacement though. But where will you find something that will match the meal potential of Santa? Okay, so maybe I can see the controversy here. I won't describe anything to do with the scenario, but let's just say that murder is involved. Orchestrated by you. But isn't Batty cute in her outfit? It's probably a good time to point out a new game mechanic that you'll have to use. In the kitchen is a telephone, and you can use this to call several different numbers that you'll find throughout the game. At least once, you'll have to in order to advance the story. Also, saving is a little different in this game. Instead of having a rest in your bed, clearly you're working up a sweat. So heading to your bathroom and hopping in the tub allows you the ability to refresh yourself and save in one of the 2 save slots available to you. Of course, there are some similarities to the first entry in the series, such as the Phantoms returning, but they're really the sideshow in this one, not the main event. When you encounter them, your hairpin will do the trick, provided it's glowing, so keep it charged. What is the main event, you ask? Well, helping Santa, of course. We all know Santa doesn't fly on his own, so in this game, you'll be helping him find Rudolph. And when that doesn't turn out well, you may or may not end up involved with a zombie reindeer that you'll have to gag with something particularly kinky. From here, things continue to spiral out of control, with new characters from the first game making appearances, some scenarios echoing, and, in general, everything you're trying to help with going to hell. There are puzzles to solve and tasks to figure out. Again, with this game, it always pays to look and interact with everything you can. Also, talk to Batty often. She's funny and helpful. By the end of the game, things get so nuts that you're trying to save Husbano while boarding up the windows to try and keep an imminent threat at bay that's trying to kill your whole family. And the worst part? You caused almost all of this. And there isn't even a resolution to it all, with the game ending on a cliffhanger that makes you want to play the third entry as soon as it comes out. And that's Batty Zabella 2 for the Game Boy. What did I think? Masterpiece Part 2. Seriously, these two games are among the best homebrews I've ever played. They're thematic, they're visually gorgeous, the music is spot on, and the gameplay is intuitive. Best of all, they're so well written. They're funny, they're scary at times. The story progression is chaotic, but it makes sense. This is what I look for when I play games like this. These were an experience, and I would highly recommend you give them a try. If Batty Zabella 1 was unraveling a mystery, Batty Zabella 2 is a descent into chaos, and I loved both of them. In the description are a bunch of links for various ways to get these games. Please go click them. Thank you for watching my video, I hope you liked it, and thank you so much to my channel members. I appreciate your support so much. As always, my contact info is in the description, and we'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.